even before my mom passed, I had picked up a book out of the bookstore because, cool people hang out at bookstores on a Friday night. And I just picked up, I think I
I
was,
do.
of course, and I randomly picked up this book, but we all know that there's no such thing as random. And it was called Journey of the Soul by Michael Newton. I had never heard of him before, but this book just seemed intriguing. And I literally read that book cover to cover, probably in a few days, because it just fascinated me so much. And I'm glad that I did, because it really taught me about, our each individual soul's journey, how none of us, it's not the first time we've met, and it's not going to be the last time that we've met. We're all here to teach each other things. It taught me a lot about just our own journeys as souls. And it helped me with my mother's passing, just kind of understanding, like understanding that, of course, I'm human and I'm going to grieve and it's going to be difficult. But having that higher level of awareness really helped me, especially when mom was in the ICU. And I'm like, guys, she's not in her body. Like, I'm very well aware that she's floating above us at this point, watching us. And I know she wouldn't want us to see, like, us being so upset and caught up in this. So that happened. And then, and it's a book that I recommend to anybody on their spiritual journey. It is probably one of my top three books. And then when the pandemic happened and we were all at home, I took a course on past life regression. And I ended up loving it. And at this time, I was still in full-time, corporate. And I loved it so much. I got to practice on my friends and family. And I got to see how different, how much of a difference I was able to make by doing this. And I'm not one to ever brag. I feel like I'm quite humble. But I got to see how naturally it came to me. And
Welcome back to the the Passionate Pioneer series. I can't even get my words out. Welcome back to the Passionate Pioneer podcast, series 3. I'm Beth Taylor and I am the Passionate Pioneer. And this podcast is your connection into spiritual awakening experiences and the path to joyful living. And today I'm joined by Avani Patel. Correct pronunciation?
good job. You got it.
I nailed it. That's great. And for people who don't know you, Avani, would you mind giving us a quick introduction before we dive into your story?
Yeah, what I am, and what I do is I am a spiritual guide and also a hypnotherapist. So what I love to do is really help people, especially women, but my clients are all over the world and, doesn't matter, male, female, or any gender. Um, and I really help them kind of understand who they are truly, remove their limiting beliefs, and live authentically. And a lot of the work is through that deep connection with yourself. And, you get to that point in your life where you want to know more, where you want to go on your spiritual journey. And I love to help people through that process.
Me too.
Yes.
So we're absolutely on the same path. We do things a little differently, but definitely on the same path, right? And that's great. That's great that you support people, whatever gender as well, right? Whatever gender they identify with. Um, so let's start at the beginning, Avani. So can you describe the moment when you first realized that maybe something wasn't quite right in your life? You realized that it looked good on the outside, but something was missing. What led you on this spiritual path?
Yeah, I think I my entire life, I've always wanted more depth. I was the kid that read, things that were way above, my level of what I shouldn't have been able to understand. I always sought like deeper understanding of things. I was doing self-development in high school when probably kids were not doing that. And then what happened was I was a busy mom. And so I kind of, just got into that rut, right? Into that autopilot of I had a great job. I ended up in tech sales for a lot of my career. And I loved it. I loved the people. I loved everything about it. And, but I was waking up really early in the morning. I was on the train to work by 6:30, coming home, getting the kids fed and us fed and showered and at bedtime, and then again logging on again. So here I was clocking 60 hours minimum a week, and that's all I knew. I didn't know any better at that point. Like I wasn't even looking to see if there was any better. And I think the biggest turning point for me was one Friday night, I got a call from my dad that my mom had just collapsed on the floor. And it turned out that she had a heart attack. And, me and my brother rushed there. She was on the in the ICU, but she did not make it. So what I did during my grief was I started to meditate. And it was just something that gave me so much solace and just so much peace during this difficult time of processing things, right? I wanted to be there for my family, for the boys who just lost their grandmother, for, other people who, my father and other people who, needed that support. But the only way that I felt like I could even do that was if I filled my cup first, right? And so I just started meditating. 10 minutes of guided meditation in the morning before work, 10 minutes in the evening. And that was literally what got me on my spiritual journey, or kind of back on that spiritual journey, and that realization that there's more to life than just working.
Yeah. And, people deal with grief in different ways. But grief is one of the trauma points that wakes people up, right?
Yeah, and right. And I didn't know, what else to do, right? So I don't know, this was like the almost like the easiest thing for me to do. 10 minutes, I can do 10 minutes. I'm a busy mom, but 10 minutes I can make work. And through that meditation process, I just became more and more committed to it, more and more in love with it. And I moved from like the 10 minutes to like, longer meditations without any guidance and just kind of really connecting. And I just saw how my corporate life, my personal life, everything changed, right? I was able to get more creative ideas for work. I was able to, lessen the the stress that I had put upon myself. I was able to, kind of work in difficult relationships at work in a better way. And even relationships in my personal life, I just started seeing them differently and really starting to see things more as a mirror for where I am and how I can improve, and not really being the victim of these circumstances anymore.
Right, that's amazing. People find it difficult to meditate, don't they? Um, and I like the way that you started with a guided meditation, and that's how I started with meditation, was guided meditations. I think I managed about 1 minute to start with, right? And then you just gradually build it up. And now I don't need a guided meditation. I can just do it. But it has taken a long time. Like everything takes practice, makes improvement. Practice never makes perfect. Whoever made that expression, because we're not perfect, we're imperfect human beings, right?
Exactly. It's progress over perfection.
Yeah.
If you can be just a little bit better by, or do a little bit better, that's all. These little things just compound, and eventually you won't even like recognize yourself a year from now if you keep it up.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, it is. I mean, meditation, I remember when I first started, like you, I was so hard on myself, right? That perfectionist comes out, the overthinking comes out, and you're like, what do I got to do today? Oh, I have to take care of this, or, the boys need this. And, just it's okay. Like, don't start over, don't give up, just keep going. And eventually, those thoughts won't be so debilitating anymore.
Are you talking about the monkey mind?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. That is what we call it.
I've got to do the shopping. Oh God, I've got to put the food. I've got to take the food out for tomorrow. I've got to pick the kids up from school. I've got to call my mom. I've got to call my friend. I've got to do this.
Yes.
And those things are okay when you're meditating, right? And that's you can't. It's very difficult to quiet your mind when you first start. Always bring yourself back to your breath and focus on your breathing, and then the other things just kind of like melt away.
Yeah, I mean, we're all coming from busy lives, right? Like meditation is new to most of us. And
Yeah.
we're not used to sitting still for that long of a time period. And then we're just expected to sit there and not have any thoughts. That's impossible.
It's impossible for people, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is possible. It is possible. The word impossible says I'm possible.
Exactly. I mean, what
Right?
I meant is it's impossible at the very beginning,
Yes.
give yourself so much grace, like you don't have, like the first time, second time, 100th time may not be perfect. And like you said, there is no such thing as perfect, but just do it. Keep doing it.
And I love the fact that you're now a hypnotherapist. Now, I tried hypnotherapy. Now, I remember thinking to myself, my mind, I'm too busy. I'm a control freak. This was years ago, right? 15, 20 years ago. No one's ever going to be able to hypnotize me. It's never going to work for me. Right? That's why. And it totally worked. It was amazing. But
Nice.
what was the story? Tell us how you got into this journey after being in the textile industry, losing someone important in your life, and then what was the next step?
Yeah, I think what had happened to me was even before my mom passed, I had picked up a book out of the bookstore because cool people hang out at bookstores on a Friday night. And I just picked up, I think I
I
was,
do.
of course, and I randomly picked up this book, but we all know that there's no such thing as random. And it was called Journey of the Soul by Michael Newton. I had never heard of him before, but this book just seemed intriguing. And I literally read that book cover to cover, probably in a few days, because it just fascinated me so much. And I'm glad that I did, because it really taught me about, our each individual soul's journey, how none of us, it's not the first time we've met, and it's not going to be the last time that we've met. We're all here to teach each other things. It taught me a lot about just our own journeys as souls. And it helped me with my mother's passing, just kind of understanding, like understanding that of course I'm human and I'm going to grieve and it's going to be difficult, but having that higher level of awareness really helped me, especially when mom was in the ICU, and I'm like, guys, she's not in her body. Like, I'm very well aware that she's floating above us at this point, watching us. And I know she wouldn't want us to see like us being so upset and caught up in this. So that happened. And then, and it's a book that I recommend to anybody on their spiritual journey. It is probably one of my top 3 books. And then when the pandemic happened and we were all at home, I took a course on past life regression, and I ended up loving it. And at this time, I was still in full-time, corporate. And I loved it so much. I got to practice on my friends and family, and I got to see how different, how much of a difference I was able to make by doing this. And I'm not one to ever brag. I'm actually I feel like I'm quite humble. But I got to see how naturally it came to me. And that's when I kind of realized, if it's coming that naturally to me, it's a gift and I can't take it for granted. And, this fulfilled me. And like just to be able to help serve others really kind of just changed me. Because this whole time I was like, what am I good at? What else can I give the world except for, technology that I'm selling, right? Like what am I here to do? And I think a lot of us wonder, like, what's our purpose? We get to that point in our life. What's our purpose? What are we here to do? What are we naturally good at? And so I realized that this was something that I was good at. And so in 2021, I left my corporate career to do coaching and hypnotherapy, specializing in past lives, full time.
I'd be really interested to know. You said you recommend 3 books, because one of these books was when my grandmother died, and I realized, and I knew this at 4 years old, that I could commune with the other side, but I just pushed it aside and buried it, etc. Right? And then when she died, she came back full force to me from the other side immediately, right? Immediately. And I wasn't even afraid. I just said, "Oh yeah, that's my nan talking," right? Just when some things were happening in the house, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's my nan." And so I started reading about it, and there was a book I read by Dr. Brian Weiss.
Many lives, many masters.
Many lives, many masters. And it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
It changed my life. It really did. And I knew exactly that we do live many lives, and we do have these different experiences on this planet and other planets, but mostly he focuses on the experiences that we have on this planet. But that's interesting. You said 3 top books, and I just wondered if that was one of them, and I'm sure it was.
I can say that it was.
Yeah, we're definitely aligned, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a lady in that book as well, Georgina Cannon, who helped him write another book, and she trained with him, and she went on to write her own books. And I went to have my hypnotherapy session with her in Canada.
Wow, how was that?
It was bloody amazing. And my grandmother was there with us as well, which was quite funny. Yeah. Because apparently
Do you still see your grandmother?
Yeah, we've lived many lives together. And so she was there to help me on this regression therapy journey. Yeah,
see, and it's so amazing how we can talk about this and it's so normal.
Yeah.
Where it's like other people are like, what did she just say? But
I'm sorry, I lost you. Hello, right? Yeah, for me, it's been normal for me for very, very many years. So that's why I'm very interested in the hypnotherapy that you do. And so you trained then. So you retrained. You realized I was wrong. It's the tech industry you were in. Yes, the tech industry.
Yeah.
I think I said the textile industry, so that was wrong. So it's the tech industry that you were in. That's correct. And then you move, so it's corporate, right? And then you have this trauma, and then you move into hypnotherapy. So what was the next step? Because it all happens in steps, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was really quite scary to leave. The stability of being in corporate. And for a long time, when I was on Instagram, I couldn't even put my face. I was hiding behind a logo because I was afraid of being judged, oh, am I being too woo, right? And I would filter things that I said, so I would make it a lot more palpable for, instead of, because I was afraid of being judged, of people thinking that I was, bonkers or whatever. So, but working with a good coach, I stopped hiding behind that logo. She really encouraged me to just put myself out there and being able to connect with people they have to see your face if they want to connect with you. And I think that really pushed me to just be who I am, fully, authentically. And the people that are meant to be in your life are going to stay in your life. And the people that can't accept you for who you are, they're going to, leave, and all of it is okay. And there's going to be some people that challenge you and people that don't agree with you. And to your face, they will say things to you. And, I'm not here to argue, to be right with anybody. I'm just here to own my own truth, and they can own their truth.
Yeah. So that's one of the questions I have for you, Avani, is when and how did you begin to listen to that inner voice? You obviously had support. I think many entrepreneurs find that have the same challenges, hiding behind the logo, not wanting to show their face, afraid of being shamed, etc. And it is challenging, isn't it, to be authentic and stand in your power. So how did you, when you were ready for this change, how did you listen to your inner voice? What happened?
I just kept getting inspiration, through meditation or when I was alone, or I think you know this, but oftentimes when you're in the shower is when you get the biggest inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, I would get inspiration, I would take notes, and I was like, how can I not share this? It's too good not to share. And it's not coming from me, right? We're just like the vessel that it runs through. Therefore we're the messengers.
Yeah.
And how can I not share this? It's not mine, and it's meant to be shared.
I call them downloads. One of my
Yes,
clients said, "Oh, have you had another download? You and your downloads." And I said,
exactly.
it's something personal for you, or it's a little download that came to me while I was in the shower, or when I was meditating or journaling or something. And I'm like, what do you think of this? She goes, oh, you and your downloads. And I'm like, they come to me all the time. It's amazing what happens when you quiet the monkey mind and just let your imagination go.
Exactly. And the more that we allow it, the more it'll come. It's when we poo-poo it and say, oh, it's not real, or oh, this isn't it, or, we don't stop and actually listen to what's being told, and then people are like, oh, I'm blocked. You're not necessarily blocked. It's just that you're choosing not to listen.
You're choosing not to listen, right? And it is difficult. It is challenging to quiet that monkey mind and listen and trust yourselves, because we've been taught, and we've learned not to trust ourselves, not to listen to ourselves, and to trust everybody else around us, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what happens. Like, especially as women, we put ourselves aside, and we listen to society, we listen to what our parents want, we listen to what our husbands want, our kids, our bosses, everybody. Like, we get to a point where we have listened to everybody, and it becomes exhausting. And we realize that what we want most is to listen to ourselves. And that's what it is. We've got to stop being busy. It is not a badge of honor. It is, we're depleting ourselves. And that's what it is. It's the truth.
But again, that's something we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
You want something, you've got to work really hard for it. And if you want to be successful, you've got to work really, 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 really hard at it, right?
Exactly.
Because what is success? People judge success with equates to money. But you
Right.
can be a successful mother, you can be a successful daughter, you can be a successful podcast host, you can be a successful professional, a successful friend.
A successful
A
human.
successful human, exactly. Lovely, right?
Yeah, we're just so hard on ourselves,
Yeah.
and we're never going to meet the expectations that other people put on us. So why even keep doing it? Like we're just killing ourselves. Instead, you'll find that you're just so much happier when you just go within and listen to, what your higher mind, your higher self, God, source, universe, whatever you believe in, that's where you'll find the success that you're looking for. It's never external.
It's found in the joy.
Yeah.
Found in the joy moments. So when you began to truly live in alignment with your authentic self and your voice and who you are, can you share that time? Or do you have a story? Can you remember a time when it just sort of all clicked for you?
I can't say that there was one time. I can say that there were moments where I said things in social settings that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said this. Like I meant it, but I never thought my old self would say something like that. Like me giving, some advice or talking about spirit guides or, talking about past lives and reincarnations. And it's like, oh my gosh, what just came out of my mouth? But that was my truth. And, so when I realized that I was doing this more and more, then I was like, forget it. There's just no point in putting up a mask anymore. Like, I am who I am, and this is who I've always been, right? I think, we've talked about me being, Indian, and I grew up, on Hinduism. And in Hinduism, reincarnation is very normal.
Yeah, right.
Karma is very normal.
Yeah.
And growing up, I was never allowed to talk about it like not never allowed. Like it's not like my parents told me not to, but it was kind of normal not to talk about it in a public setting because you weren't going to be accepted for your views because they're not the traditional views.
Correct.
And so, we learn to suppress things that we believe or that are authentic to us because we want to fit in. And again, I got to that point where it's like, you know what? I'm going to fit the right people are going to find me. The right friends are going to accept me. If I hear people that don't believe in the same things I believe in, I'm open to listening. I'm always open to understanding other people's points of views and maybe, also changing my view because it's not like our views and beliefs always change, right? But it was when I just became more authentic and spoke out more and more about what I believe to be true, that those were the moments where it just like the weight lifted off. It melted.
It's freeing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the mask was finally taken off. And
hi, I just wanted to pop on here just to say thank you so much for being here, watching this video and supporting my channel. It is my honor to bring you these stories from these incredible women who are passionate about their lives and have alchemized their spiritual awakening journeys from service to self to service to others. If you would like to be part of my Passionista community, just grab a free copy of my workbook, which you'll find a link below. It's called Your Passionista Journey Starts Here. And start making those small changes to your life that you need right now. Thank you again for being here. Love you to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when all the new weekly episodes are live. Thanks again, Passionista. Much love and joy. Now let's get back to the interview.
I didn't have to be different people, a different person around different people. Now I'm just who I am.
And you know what? I think it's fascinating that those institutions that shall remain nameless, that suppress, freedom of thinking and, before they came onto the scene many years ago, everybody believed in reincarnation. The Egyptians believed it, the Mayans believed it, the different civilizations that came before us definitely believed in reincarnation. And it's great that Hinduism still reveres that, so that, this is not just the only, this is just this is, you are a soul having a human experience. And if you want to have another one, you can come back and have another one. It's not a big deal, right?
Yeah, like this weekend, my nieces asked me, like, is it hard to reincarnate? Like what happened? And I was like, think about it. Every day, every morning, you change your clothes. And that's all it is, we change our clothes in a different life and we become a different person. It could be, a male in Africa, a female in Egypt. It could be, a small child in the US. It could be any setting, any socioeconomic, any gender. And, it's situations that we choose to put ourselves in for our own growth.
Yeah.
And, even me, like I have a big heart. And when I see somebody that's going through something, or I see somebody in a difficult situation, my heart breaks for them. And then I go back to, you know what, they're here to experience something
Hmm.
and they're here to learn something. So it's not that we don't have empathy for them. It's that we can see that their soul has chosen this for their own evolution. And I can really appreciate that in a very different way now.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. And I was just going to say, when you see somebody that's having a difficult experience, you never know, why they chose that, why they chose to have that experience. What are they learning? Because everybody's learning something. Everybody has challenges, different challenges. Sometimes it can be where you've decided to, have a lot of money. And that has its own challenges, right? And then you decide to have no money in another life, and you're like, that's another set of challenges, right? Or you decide to be gifted, you know, or I don't know, an alcoholic or something. You're doing it to have an experience. What would that be like? And so when people say, this is probably your experience, when people say, "Oh, I can't believe I would have chosen my family and chosen this this life," I said, well, it's here for a reason. I'm here to gently remind you it's here for a reason. If you would like to choose something different, that's your transformation.
And I think that you hit the nail right there, because I see so many good people that keep experiencing things over and over again. And
Hmm.
it's I hate to say this because it's not, I don't want to sound mean, but if this is your chance to learn, and if you're not learning, those same experiences in different forms are going to continue to show up for you.
And get
And
and get more difficult, probably.
yes, until finally you realize that, okay, I'm done with this, and I see some beautiful, beautiful people that, I hate seeing them go through this, but at the same time, they like to be in that victim mentality, or they're choosing not to see it any other way.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, it's not for us to judge, or we can guide. You can lead the person to the water. You can't make them drink the water, right? They've got to make
Exactly.
their own choices and decisions, but you can gently guide them and say, I think there might be a better way.
Exactly. And sometimes the best kind of guidance is you just showing up as you, being the light, and
Yeah,
just showing people that, even though we're all experiencing things, we can find joy and happiness regardless of what is going on. And just being that pillar of light for them so that they can see that they can do it themselves.
yeah, yeah. We're leading by example, isn't it? It's always leading by example.
Yeah.
And I know that that's what you're doing, Avani. Um, your relationships, your daily life, and your overall well-being must have changed drastically. So tell me how it used to be and how it is now. Tell us the transformation.
Yeah, I think when I was in corporate, I really tried to fit in. And you had to be a certain way, you had to you know be this mold. And yeah, you could be different variations of the mold, but don't be too one way or don't be too another way, right? And I know I wasn't meant to fit in. I don't think I ever fit in. I tried my hardest. Now it's very different because entrepreneurship is fun. Having my own business is great. I can be myself. I feel like I have more genuine relationships. The people that still keep in touch with me from my corporate world, obviously I know that we're meant to still be friends, but most of them have gone, we've gone our separate ways. I knew thousands of people in my time. And now I have a handful of people that keep in touch with me. But because of that, I have a new set of friends, and I feel like we're more aligned. We have the same values, the same, desire to serve people in the highest way possible. And that's great. So it really took a while for me to get used to not having so many, I could say, fake relationships because I was felt very comfortable in that, to just a handful of genuine relationships that are going to be there for me all the time.
A reason, a season, or a lifetime?
Oh, explain it for anybody that doesn't know it.
Yeah, right. So, and I truly believe that there's some people coming for a reason. Sometimes you don't understand what that reason is. It's just a short time, and it could be that they're there to teach you something, or you're there to teach them something. It's just that brief moment, and it could be 6 months, 1 year. That's brief, right? In the long term. And then you've got season, a bit longer. But and you've experienced it too. So when you go into the next chapter, when you start growing, your soul grows. Is that how you would explain it, Avani? Is that, when your soul grows, you mentioned earlier some people leaving your life and you just let them go, but then new people come in. So is that part of the experience?
Yeah, you've got to let go of the old in order to bring in the new. And I hate to say that about people because the old me was attached to people
Right.
and I loved people and I never wanted to let them go, and I still don't because I feel like people are so important and I value people. But I've learned through this that it's Maya, it's the illusion, and there's an attachment to it. We are so attached to, people, to situations, to our beliefs, to things, right? And all of them are here, like you said, for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime. Whether it be, just recently I bought a beautiful ring. It was like a tiger eye ring and I loved it. I wore it 5 times and I lost it. It's gone. And the old me would have just allowed my mind to be like, where could it be? Where is it? Where is it? Why can't I find it? And now I've just really learned to not be so attached, whether it's to my thoughts, whether it's to things, whether it's to people, like let it ebb and flow as it should and let go of that attachment. And the biggest one that I've learned is letting go of expectations. You are not me. I am not you. What I expect, and how I expect people to be and to treat me is different, or how I expect to treat others is going to be different than how you would maybe treat me. And when we let go of those expectations for each other and just see each other for who we are, our relationships are going to be better and we're not attached to it. So then now, when the season comes that you and I aren't meant to be friends anymore, it's okay. I release you with love and with respect and, adoration and caring for you so that you can have an amazing life, and I will be a part of it and that's okay.
Yeah. It's also the unconditional sometimes as well, I mean, I look at the way that, some people treat animals and I'm like, then the way that they continue to love. They love the next set of humans that find them, and it's unconditional love. And sometimes I think you got to see people just love them anyway, and just say, that's who you are. I can't change anything. It's expectations, right? I'm expecting you to change. No, you can't. Think how difficult it is to change yourself. That's where you start. And then you go, oh, yeah, I don't think I can change anybody else, right? Because
We
it's
don't have
really
that power.
challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've learned it not only in my own life, but also in past life regressions, where some of the hardest relationships that we have in our lifetime, the only thing that we're here to learn from, one of the only things, one is boundaries, of course, and second, the biggest thing is unconditional love for them.
Mhm.
Those difficult relationships, they are really the biggest teachers for us. And one of the biggest lessons is unconditional love, because we're not here to change them. It's okay to love them from afar. It's okay to limit our time with them, but just know that they are here to teach us something. And it's sometimes can be very difficult for us. But when we let go of how we want that relationship to look like and see it for what it is nothing but unconditional love for them.
Yeah. So talk to me about or tell us a story. Tell us a story, Avani, of your hypnotherapy journey. Tell us a memorable experience without giving
Yeah.
much
So
away,
I'll
right?
tell you how I got rid of a really um, difficult limiting belief. So I am petite. I'm under 5 foot. You can't tell by seeing me on screen, but all my life I was made fun of for being petite. I got teased and picked on a lot. And of course, like the societal norm is to be tall, thin, and in the States, it's blonde hair, blue eye,
Right.
and I'm the exact opposite of that. And so I never felt pretty, cute, beautiful, any of those words. Never felt it. I always was like, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not good looking, I'm not pretty enough. Like all the not enoughness I dealt with. Not good enough, not worthy enough, all of it. And I went into a past life and I saw this past life that where I was a big, brutish kind of woman in this past life. And how the lesson from there was that I specifically chose this body and that I was not appreciating the body that I chose for myself for this journey for a reason, because I was so busy wanting a different body. And that wasn't the vessel that I chose. And I saw the complete opposite. I was a bigger woman, very like kind of, I don't want to say manly, but like wider and and I
Bigger
uh
boned.
what is it? Big
Bigger
bone.
boned.
Yeah. And in that lifetime, I never got married. In that time, um, it wasn't acceptable for me to be like that. And here I am in this lifetime, it's societally not the norm for me to be, petite and, look the way I do. And it really challenged my beliefs. And since that moment, you will never hear me talk about me being short, me making fun of myself for being short as a coping mechanism. And because I have loved and accepted myself for who I am, I rarely hear a comment about my size anymore or anyone picking on me anymore. And it's all about the vibration that you give out, right? If
Right.
you love and accept yourself, there is no way that vibration is going to go out or you give anybody a chance to say anything negative about you.
Yeah. That's a lot. It's a lovely example. And there is this pandemic or epidemic of not good enoughness, right? There's no many women just don't feel good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not tall enough. We're not short enough. We're not pretty enough. We're not smart enough. We don't have enough experience. The list just endless, isn't it? Really, of not enoughness.
Yes, and it's always in our head. Like think
That's
about
crazy.
everything it's the poison that we pour into our minds, you know? And I'm sure you've heard this example, like, would you say this to your daughter? Would you say this to your best friend? No. So why do we continue to say it to ourselves?
Correct. It's the words that you say to yourself are so important.
It is. And you'll notice, like, it was a complete change. I mean, I was getting, you know, people would always make short jokes about me. And, you know, at some point, it's like, okay, I've heard this one over and over again. Like, can you come up with something more creative, you know, than, you know, can you drive and see over the steering wheel? Or, you know, do you have to go to the little kids section? Or, you know, just the same stuff. Like, I'm a grown woman. I don't need to hear all this. But, you know, adults, you know, still that, and the tapping on the head because they think you're so cute, you know, like all of those things would just annoy me. But it also fed into my belief that I wasn't good enough.
So that speaks about them, doesn't it? And how insecure they are and their feelings of who they are, you know, that they have to make jokes about other people.
Yeah, and you know,
before somebody points at me, right?
Yeah, and it's never and it was more often than not a man.
Yeah, of course it was. So
and we pick and yeah, right? And we pick and choose what is acceptable and what isn't. So I remember going to a spin class once, and you know, this woman was next to me that I've seen in class, and she was making fun of me for reaching the pedals and blah, blah, blah. And all the bikes are customizable. So I was like, haha. But guess what? She was a little larger, you know, a little overweight. I don't what, you know, like how as a society is it okay to make fun of one person's looks, but not another person's look, you know? And I never said anything to her because it's just not like me. And I'm not gonna, you know, spit out just because somebody insults me, I'm not gonna insult them. But it really made me realize that certain things are okay to make fun of in society, whereas other things are not. When really we should just be conscious, and it's that acceptance, right? We should accept people for who they are, where they are in their journey, and really not make fun of anybody because it's not a very mature thing to do.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you know you said, oh, it's only men that make those jokes, but then sometimes it is women. But you know, the reason I think there's this not good enoughness in the, and it's mostly women, is because that's what we've been told by men.
By men,
right? Through history, going back hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
That we're the second-class citizens, right? We're not allowed to be smart. We're not supposed to be pretty. We can't, you know, if a man's a stud, you know, and he's sleeping with lots of women, if a woman did that, she's a prostitute, right? There's one rule for one and one rule for somebody else. And I always see this big divide in society in general, which I think is slowly breaking down. But you know, we've got doctors and nurses. The classic doctor and nurse. Doctor is a man, the nurse is a woman. You know, we've got professor at a university, generally a man. Teacher, generally a woman. What is that about our society, that we put everybody in a box?
Yeah, and you know, and there's some conflicting things too. Like women are expected to cook, but men are the chefs. You know, when you go on watch a chef show, it's usually typically a man that's, you know, or like a lot of the well-known chefs are typically men. But yet women are the ones that are the cooks. You know, like how is that fair?
It's crazy. And I'll tell you something. Do you know in South Korea, it's the opposite with cooks. Because the men are the women are the dominant chefs in the industry, in the hotels, everywhere. Women are the dominant sex of that industry of cooking.
I love that.
Yeah. Isn't that great? So they have the opposite, right?
That's interesting. And how are they as a society?
I don't know actually. In
Okay.
Korea, I'm not sure about the other things, but I do know about the cooking. It's the,
Wow.
the chefing industry is dominated by women, and that's really different to the Western world,
Very different. I mean, we've
right?
got, when you look at some of the top chefs, it tends to be the men.
Yeah, right. So I think we've had this generational thing of, which has come from the not to be men haters. I'm not a man hater. I'm just saying it's just a fact that it has come from the masculine energy, which is men, masculine energy. We've been living in that for a very long time, and it's all about me, 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 right?
Yeah, and that is slowly changing,
Yes, yeah,
It is really people, the divine feminine is definitely, for the last year, it has been showing up a lot stronger,
I
and
see
it's
that.
going to continue.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that too. And I think that's really good because, the men in my life have been, and are softer. They do have that balance.
Yeah, and
And
it's
I think that's
okay.
really nice. And that's okay, right? Men can wear
Yes,
pink. Men can cry. It's okay, right?
right. Why are we expecting one gender to suppress their emotions?
Yeah.
And, like when I have two boys, and one thing that I was always conscious of is like the things that I said to them and put into their head. We always tell, if a boy is crying, we say, stop crying like a girl or whatever. There's a saying. I never said that to the boys. Why is it that why is it normal that only girls cry? And why is that a bad thing? It's okay. You're expressing yourself. A lot of children cry because they don't know how to communicate at that age, and the only thing they know how to do is cry because they can't verbalize it.
Correct.
So, it's those little things that we just have to be conscious of what seeds we're planting in the next generation, because we need to break these cycles that our generation either created or perpetuated. And now that next generation, it's their time to have these role models that tell them that it's okay to break these cycles, or we're breaking it for them.
Well, I think that's right. And I think the divine feminine coming in to balance with the masculine means we're moving away from service to self and into service for others and thinking about other people and putting ourselves in their shoes, right?
Exactly. And
And
that's in everything in your life, right? It's not like now my business is more feminine. My relationships are, where I'm bringing a lot more empathy, compassion. I've always been compassionate, understanding, more patient, but, just kind of bringing it into all aspects of your life. And that's where, you'll find so much more, I guess, happiness and authenticity and joy is, having that balance. When you're in corporate, it's very masculine. And it took me a long time to get out of that corporate mindset, where you're constantly doing, you're overproductive, you're hyper, yes, on overdrive.
yeah,
And now it's like, it's okay. I don't need to, go, go, go all the time, because the best version of me is a version of me that's not stressed out, that's not always anxious and worried and, all of that. And if I can be that best version of myself for my clients, for my family, my friends, then that's called being authentic and living authentically.
but let's not be, let's not, what am I trying to say? Let's not get rid of the masculine altogether because we need that balance because the masculine energy is the doer, it's the action taker. But you get the inspiration and the motivation and the ideas and that's great. That I don't, let's try that, let's do that from the softer side, and that's in the quieter times, in the joyful times, in the meditation times, right?
Exactly. And you're right. Like there's nothing wrong with the masculine, right? It helps us get things done.
Yeah,
But it's when we become one too much in one way. Because if we're too in the feminine, also that's not good. Like, oh,
correct.
it'll happen. Oh, if it's meant to be, it'll, like, no, we do have to take action. We do need to implement these ideas that we got. We can't just always just be in the feminine, like, and things will just happen. But then, so it's having that balance. And I found that even in my corporate career, when I had more of that balance, I was just a happier person. So you don't have to leave corporate to be able to do these, the balancing of the feminine and the masculine. Just taking those little steps and implementing it both ways will make you happier until, you eventually leave.
Yeah, step by step.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to finish with two questions that I ask all my guests, Avani.
Okay.
If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh my gosh. I think it was what I kind of just talked about. You are who you are, and love yourself for who you are, not what other people expect you to be, and, what society expects you to be, or, what people want you to be. Just be who you are, because we're all unique souls, right? There's never going to be another person like you ever again to walk this planet, ever. And why do we take that for granted?
Great answer. Why do we take that for granted? And the final question is, what do you hope your story will inspire in other women who are looking to live a more purposeful and joyful life?
I think, my story, I really did, I had a lot of cultural, societal, expectation that I really tried to upkeep. And it literally led me to burnout and for me not to be who I was, because I was just living under multiple masks and being different versions of myself. And if I could just have women see that they are already kind of beautiful, they're beautiful, just being who they are, and it's okay to be who you are, getting rid of those limiting beliefs, those expectations, those shoulds, the need to prove ourselves, the need to be perfect, or overthinking, all of those things, the nice girl effect. When we really start to look at ourselves for what, we're doing to ourselves, and start to release some of that stuff. I hope people can see that even with so much ingrained in myself, I was able to shed a lot of it through, meditation, starting with those 10 minutes a day, and starting that spiritual journey consciously, because we're all on a spiritual journey. We're just not aware of it. So starting that more consciously and taking those first steps and being able to feel the freedom, of what it feels like when we're releasing all these things, these karmic baggage, societal baggages, generational, ancestral baggages that we're carrying around with us, and how freeing it can be. If I can do it, you can do it.
Oh, what a wonderful way to end the podcast episode. A million thanks to Avani for joining me today. And thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering. And you'll find all you need to know about both of us in the details below. So until next time, this is the Passionate Pioneer and Avani signing off. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, another powerful Passionista conversation. I hope that this guest's journey, experience, and story has inspired something deep within you. Remember, it's about following the joy moments in your life. It's a beautiful dance with the universe. If you would like to dive deeper into your joy journey with me, you will find all the links below this video, including a link to a free workbook that will help you to start your joy journey. And until next time, Passionista, I'll say goodbye. Much love and joy.